In the future, we shall cover all our budget.
If they really want to help Africa, as they keep saying, to concentrate on energy, roads, and the railway.
So before anybody gives me a lecture about homosexuals and their rights, please first talk about the railway.
We don't have a single aid from anybody when it comes to defense. Our friends who love us so much, like God who loved the world and sent his only son, Jesus, to die for us. They love us, but they don't want to help us with the defense.
Breaking overnight, workers at the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, in Washington were told to stay home this morning. The main office closed. They received an email shortly after midnight telling them, don't come in. This is the latest development on the future of USAID after both President Trump and, maybe more importantly, Elon Musk said it needed to be shut down.
Dismantle the agency. My next guest lives in Uganda, and she says this move could actually represent an opportunity for African nations that depend on this aid. Watch.
We have depended on USAID for over 60 years, and the moment the owners of the money say, let's take a 90-day pause that I audit where my money is going, suddenly the whole country goes into a frenzy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, was recently in the news, and I mean global news, and in the news for all the right reasons. We were in the news that we caught the attention of the world's richest man, Elon Musk, when he decided to retweet or to reshare a message from one of our own, a Ugandan policy content creator who was defending the position of the USA that decided to freeze funding, especially international aid. Watch this. Listen to this.
We have depended on USAID for over 60 years, and the moment the owners of the money say, let's take a 90-day pause that I audit where my money is going, suddenly the whole country goes into a frenzy.
Isn't it crazy that we've been depending on international aid for how many years? And the moment someone says, oh, I've got to audit how much I've been giving you and how much you've been using it and how much more do I need to give you, or if I should stop, and you go into a frenzy like she said. Isn't that crazy? How unprepared we are that Uganda at the moment is struggling. We've seen people being fired, organizations and government agencies now crying because they do not have the foreign aid.
And this should be a moment of reflection for Uganda and the African continent in general. We have been asking for a very long time to be liberated from colonialism, neo-colonialism.
And I'll tell you one of the people that has been saying that. They just called his bluff. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the president of Uganda. The West has called his bluff. Museveni has always been wanting to be a beggar that chooses. He goes on to say, if you give me this money, you shouldn't tell me what to use it for. Or you cannot give me this money for ABC. Okay? And at one time, even getting to an extent of threatening these countries that have been helping him. Okay.
And now that the opportunity presents itself, for some reason, we are complaining.
Make it make sense. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni preaches Pan-Africanism. He teaches about how we can build our economies from scratch. And then he scoffs at the foreign aid that comes from some of our global partners. He only makes one thing: just shout at them. He's never said, I don't want your money, stop funding me. The only thing he does is trying to threaten them. He's good at a big talk or a big game when it comes to talking. But when you say, hey, can you now say, I don't need this money? He won't say that. But he wants to preach to us how we can build our countries from scratch without him being an example.
Because let's get something straight. Often the money given to us in foreign aid is lost to corruption, misuse, depleted and overrated salaries.
All right. She's not actually lying. I'll read you this. This is Dambisa Moyo's Dead Aid. And she goes on to say right here, I'm reading page 49 from Dead Aid. Okay? It says, with AID's help, corruption fosters corruption. Nations quickly descend into a vicious cycle of aid. Foreign aid props up corrupt governments, providing them with freely usable cash. These corrupt governments interfere with the rule of law, the establishment of transparent civil institutions, and the protection of civil liberties, making both domestic and foreign investment in poor countries unattractive. She sounds like she was writing about Uganda. This is what Museveni has used the money that we receive from our global partners. No wonder that we've always seen over and over and over again his brother Caleb Akandwanaho, famously known as Salim Saleh, handing over billions of cash to entertainment folks, handing over millions of Ugandan shillings to minions and lackeys, those that are going to spread the propaganda and the regime of Mr. Museveni.
To particular individuals, or sometimes we lose billions of money that are unaccounted for. So it only makes sense that the donor is asking for an edit, and if that means pausing the amount of money coming in, they should.
Come on. It shouldn't be very difficult to understand.
I do understand the implications of this pause because so many heavily funded healthcare projects run on USAID, but that should be a moment of reflection.
Absolutely. Especially if you've been preaching Pan-Africanism or building our economies from scratch, from grassroots and sustainability and stuff like that. Walk the talk, Mr. Museveni.
It's just a 90-day pause. What would happen if the United States just say we're not giving you money anymore? And within their rights, they can't do that because it is their money. It's high time Uganda and the African continent got themselves together and actually started looking for systems that are sustainable and not always dependent on foreign aid, because we are struggling with debt. On top of that, we have constant aid.
Did she mention we are struggling with debt? I'll read you here. Listen, in the course of his disastrous reign, Zaire's President Mobutu Sese Seko is estimated to have stolen a sum equivalent to the entire external debt of his country, $5 billion. No sooner had he requested a reduction in interest payments on the debt than he leased Concorde to fly his daughter to her wedding in Ivory Coast. According to one estimate, at least $10 billion, nearly half of Africa's 2003 foreign aid recipients, leave the continent every year. Hello?
Which doesn't necessarily help us to have a more independent system. Instead of writing paragraphs of why this is a bad move, we should essentially realize that, we're actually in a bad situation and we cannot always depend on aid because it can go any day. African nations should...
Mic drop. Mic drop.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Political Commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mordecai Marissa and I'm so glad that you're part of this conversation. Please go on and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Drop a like and a comment section on what you think on this interesting topic. I mean, this girl was on the news. I think she was interviewed by Fox News, and I'll play you this interview, her interview shortly. But she drives the point home. For over decades and decades, Mr. Museveni has preached to us how we can sustain our economies, how we do not have to rely on foreign aid. He's used his platform as a bully pulpit to go after these folks that fund him. He always uses one-liner. Every time they question him about human rights, about abducting, torturing, and killing of innocent Ugandans, they ask him about corruption. He only scapegoats in one way, talking about how these folks are actually pushing the agenda of LGBTQI+. Every time they say, hey, we've read a report of people who have been abducted and killed, those that have been denied opportunities to vote. We've seen how you've attacked your members of parliament. And his only response is gaslighting folks who ask him. And these are folks who fund him. They fund him in ways that would help, create an environment where democracy can thrive. But every time they ask him, oh, you're telling me about corruption. You cannot imagine how many times this guy has always used gay or homosexuality as his scapegoat. We play here. 1.
The crucial elements we need in this region, apart from peace and democracy, is infrastructure development. And I'm glad that our development partners are there. This is the point they should concentrate on.
A beggar is trying to be a chooser.
Yes, I know homosexuals are important.
Always running to that talking point again. And when was this? This is 13 years ago.
If they really want to help Africa, as they keep saying, to concentrate on energy, roads, and the railway.
Isn't it funny that he tells them that if you want to help me in these ways, how about you help yourself? You can be in power for almost 40 years, but still go and tell a person who's helping you, you know what? This is how I want you to help me.
We do not need help on elections.
We do not need help on elections. One of the ways the West supports countries like Uganda is to ensure that the democratic way of leadership is established and thrives in countries like these that are new to the concept of democracy. But he says, oh, we do not need any help with elections, because he knows his goal is consolidation of power. So he says, do not try to audit me. Do not try to investigate what I do. I'll kill, I will abduct, I will torture my political opponents. I will steal elections. Please close your eyes, but give me money if you can build me roads. Shamelessness doesn't even begin to describe what Mr. Museveni is doing. And they laugh. Let's go on. These are 14 years ago. Let's go here.
We don't have a single
8 years ago now.
aid from anybody when it comes to defense. Our
That's a big lie.
friends who love us so much, like God who loved the world and sent his only son, Jesus, to die for us. They love us, but they don't want to help us with the defense.
See, they love us, but they do not want to help us with defense. How about you help yourself with defense? If they've been able to help you in other areas, why can't you be man enough and help yourself in other areas? Isn't, like I said, shamelessness doesn't even begin to describe this gentleman. Oh, help me in this area. They've helped you in other areas, in health sector, in infrastructure. And be like, oh, now, why are you not helping me here? Are you kidding me? Is that being mean and rude?
We shall help you with NGOs, with homosexuals. Somebody's teaching you how to make pancakes. How about the defense? Defense, we don't want to defend.
And you know why he talks about defense? It's not because he wants to protect the Ugandan citizens. When he says defense, is another way of saying, how do you help me stay in power? It's to use this defense against you as citizens who rightfully use their constitutional right to oppose him. That's what he says. Oh, how about defense?
Please.
No. Then he goes on.
No amount of intimidation or actions even will destroy us.
Now that's sort of threatening. I cannot count how many times this gentleman has come out to attack, to scoff at those folks who actually help him over and over and over again. But just like Janice was making that point, former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta came out and said, hey, do not cry over spilled milk. If they've stopped funding you, wake up. Let it be a wake-up call, a reflection point, and be like, actually, Maybe I can do it. Why do I have to depend on the West for help?
He has no reason to give you anything. Money. I saw some people the other day crying, oh, I don't know, Trump has removed money. He said he's not giving us any more money. Why are you crying? It's not your government, it's not your country.
Why are you crying? Exactly, this is when you deserve a round of applause. When you make these kind of points, not just random round of applauses they usually give Museveni when he makes the list of sensible points.
He has no reason to give you anything. I mean, you don't pay taxes in America. He's appealing to his people.
Absolutely.
This is a wake-up call for you to say, okay, what are we going
Exactly.
to do to help ourselves? Instead of crying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Exactly.
Yeah?
But
To support ourselves. Because nobody is going to continue holding out a hand there to give you. It is time for us to use our resources for the right things. We are the ones who are using them for the wrong things.
Thank you so much. I like it when folks like him actually say these kind of things. You cannot believe. But what is going on in Uganda? What are they saying about what happened, what the USS did?
We still have
Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health.
drugs. We have stocks actually in the country. It's not that when they announced all of a sudden the medicines disappeared. No, we had drugs in NMS cities full of ARVs and even in GMS. We will continue to conduct our activities as usual. What I know that maybe some of the staff that were being supported will not be there.
They're going to lose jobs.
But then we are going to rearrange.
You realize she's not confident about what she's saying. We are going to
both at women.
And how much? You know, you saw Museveni giving orders of how much they should receive and how much, how we should use it and stuff like that. Guess how much we were receiving from USAID?
The U.S. government, through its development agency, United States Agency for International Development, USAID, provides about $1 billion to
$1 billion.
Uganda.
Do you know how much that is in Ugandan currency?
Annually. This is about 3.6 trillion Ugandan shillings.
3.6 trillion shillings.
In form of aid, which has been on a rising trajectory. However,
and it's been on a rising trajectory. They've been increasing this money every year. But this money has not been used for its intended purposes. Never. It's stealing it. I mean, of recent, we had a story, you saw it. Ugandans were heartbroken. We couldn't believe what we saw. Rich men, extremely rich men and women, stealing iron sheets that were meant to help those folks, the underprivileged, the less privileged folks. And they were stolen by Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, the Speaker of Parliament. I mean, stealing iron sheets. A person who allocates himself millions of money as a salary is shameless enough to steal iron sheets. So while this is going to be painful, it's going to be a very painful pill to swallow. Ugandans, is the time to wake up. How are we going to depend on these folks and for how long? Now to the story where Janice, I think her name is Janice Nkajja, was interviewed on Fox News. This is what she had to say.
Guest lives in Uganda, and she says this move could actually represent an opportunity for African nations that depend on this aid. Watch.
We have depended on USAID for over 60 years.
I think we've already watched that.
The owners of the money say, if
I'll jump to this.
For and that video. It's great to see you. I just want to dive right into some of the points that we heard you making in that video. Let's start with the colonialism point. You point out that many African nations have been fighting for, arguing for, extricating themselves from colonialism.
Exactly.
And here now we have Western countries, in this case the United States, pulling their money away, and you're confused as to why people would be upset. I think you're saying you thought this is what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely. For a very long time, we as African people, Ugandan people, always complaining about the issues that results to foreign aid and the different strings that come with it. And so this presents as a great opportunity for Africa.
Exactly. You've seen Museveni. Oh, homosexuals. Okay. Strings attached. Could be. But how about now you celebrate?
Nations to stop talking about strings attached to US or foreign aid in general. I understand where the issue comes from because a lot of this money largely supports individuals who live with HIV and AIDS in most African nations. And this is facing a huge devastation on that particular issue. But on the other hand, it presents a great opportunity for African nations to build more sustainable healthcare and financial systems on a global scale.
Right. I think it's $6.5 billion goes to sub-Saharan Africa. But the other point that you made I want to dive into was the one on corruption. Because while you point out a lot of this aid does go to, for example, helping those with HIV, how much actually? So I want to share this with the audience first of all. USAID, $43 billion in 2023. Here's how it's broken out. $16 billion under governance, another $10 billion under humanitarian, $3.5 billion under administrative. I don't know what governance and administrative are, but people have pointed out how much overhead USAID has, Janice, on this side of the equation. Then there's the side of what happens when it gets to your side, the recipient, and how much of that is tied to corruption.
Exactly.
Yes, definitely, because we have so many issues within our own national structure system. That's why we keep needing aid, because there's a lot of misuse with the money that we have within the system. So we keep having to outsource from elsewhere. And even in this particular way, there's always a way this money is mishandled. And that's a huge issue. And that's why I was calling for a time where we need sustainability within our own structures if we are going to even handle money that comes from outside. And so with the presence of rampant corruption, misuse of funds, and sometimes the money just disappears, it begs the question, how can African nations shift or pivot in this kind of time or area? Because now that USAID is getting disbanded, it means that we're not going to get this money any further. And so there has to be a more sustainable system that is going to work. Other than that, a lot of people are going to lose their lives. Already thousands have lost jobs. And so it puts African nations in a very staggering position that does not see us going anywhere in the future.
But it sounds like, and just to wrap it up here, it sounds like you see this, though, as the opportunity.
Absolutely.
The opportunity to stand up on your own in Uganda.
Definitely, because now we have analyzed where our stance is when it comes to, we cannot depend on our livelihoods. Our livelihoods cannot depend on internal politics of the United States. And so having understood that at this particular moment in time, it gives African nations, particularly Uganda, an initiative to make decisions that are more sustainable instead of depending on whether or not a particular state votes for aid for a particular country.
All right, what a fascinating discussion. What an interesting perspective. Janice Nkajja, thanks so much for jumping on with us today.
Janice Nkajja. Not Nkajja. I understand, I'm just kidding. All right, amazing. Now, that's what I'm talking about. I'm trying to bring my screen back in the frame, so that I have a good conversation with you. This is what I am talking about. This dead aid. And Trump is right. It helps us. Let us wake up. We are an independent country. We talk about how we can support ourselves. All this money that is given to us is stolen. Now is the time for us to wake up. It's a very hard pill to swallow, sour pill, but it must be swallowed. My name is Mordecai Morisa. Hope you had a wonderful time engaging with me on this conversation. Let me know what you think. Please write in the comment section and let me know what you think. And like this video, share it with any person if you think it's worth sharing. And I'll talk to you once again. Thank you so much, Janice Nkajja. Janice Nkajja, for your reasonable, timely, and precise argument in favor of what these folks have done to us. It's going to be difficult, but we can do it. That's what I believe. Tell me what you think.
Did you enjoy what you just watched? I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Morisa YouTube channel? Thank you.